Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Discriminating Gamer. When I was young, my father used to wash the car with me. I guess he was just too cheap to buy a sponge. Ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to go ahead and take a look at Chucky, scary gameplay in the world of child's play from Trick or Treat Studios.
We'll get back to the review in just a moment. I want to take a minute to ask you to check out my other channel, that is Cody Carlson, PhD, where we talk about history, books on history, military history. I even post some of my lectures for my classes on there. Please check that out. Please subscribe to that channel. And now, back to the review.
In Chucky, scary gameplay in the world of child's play, 2 to 4 players take on the roles of survivors who are attempting to go to various locations to score the most victory points and just to survive. Now, the game board represents various locations from the world of child's play, as well as 3 crime scenes and a final encounter location. Players are going to get their own individual player boards that are going to have kind of skills. You've got attack, search, and escape, and depending on the character that you're playing, you're going to place cubes in different spots there to show where you start. Each of the locations of those cubes will be worth points at the end of the game. Each player will also get 4 survivor tokens that match their color. There'll also be a pool of various generic time tokens, as well as a pool of victim tokens. You'll also have 3 different types of research cards you'll put next to the board. You'll have a deck of bloodlust cards you must shuffle, and then you will also have a quirk deck that you also must shuffle. Now, when you look at the 3 crime scenes, you're going to select, there are a number of different kinds of crime locations that you can have. And at the beginning of the game, you're just going to select the 3 of them to put those out there on the board. Those are the crime scenes you'll be visiting. Now, at the beginning of every round, every player will get 2 victim tokens. These are people that you hang out with who aren't as lucky as you. And then you're also going to have one player is going to start with the Chucky standee. Now, he can choose which location to place the Chucky standee, and whoever wins that location is going to get a discount on how they have to pay for it. More on that in a bit. But you're going to go ahead and place that Chucky standee in one of the locations. If you select the library, then a new first player is chosen at that time. However, what you then do is, beginning with the first player, you're going to place these time tokens in the various locations around the board. Now, the various locations give you different abilities. They may let you draw certain cards, or they may give you more victim tokens. They may increase the stats on your player board by 1 or 2. So there's all different goodies that take place in the different locations. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your time tokens, that's how much time you're spending in that location, and you're going to place them in the various locations. However, if more than one person is in that location, when you flip them, who's ever got the highest number gets to go ahead and do that location. The second player will get a consolation. He'll be able to do something not quite as powerful, but something else that he'll be able to get for that. But the player who gets that location then can do whatever action that location allows him to do. However, he must pay for that actions with victim tokens. You have to place the victim tokens beneath the locations. If you can't pay for the victims, there's going to be penalties there. But generally, you want to go ahead and pay for that so you can take that special action. So you actually place out 2 tokens for kind of the first phase, and then you're going to do that again. So you're going to do 2 rounds of putting out your time tokens. So you're going to put out all 4 of your time tokens, 2 the first time, 2 the second time. Now, if ever any of the victim tracks, if they get so much, they may hit spaces that, again, allow people to draw cards or do other things. But if it ever gets to the end of the track, then players must draw a bloodlust card and put it on that location or at the end of the track. And that is usually kind of a global effect that will be negative for all players. Then that victim track is cleared. Now, You may be able at various times to draw some of these evidence cards. These are clues, sightings, or research. And depending on which location you're in, will usually let you draw one of those. Sometimes you have options. But you're going to draw that card, and that is a card that you can either play at a later time or play immediately that will usually give you some kind of an advantage in the game. There are also quirk cards. Occasionally you can draw quirk cards, and these are like goals. If you can go ahead and complete these, you will score a number of victory points toward the end of the game. Now, after you do the first and second pass the time phase, you're going to go to the crime scene phase. So you'll go to the first crime scene, you'll read the setup card that kind of sets up what's happening at that location, and then each player will draw one of the cards. The cards will have various kind of stories and maybe choices for you to make. There may be a push your luck challenge where you can kind of roll die, hoping to score better and better and keep going to get a higher score. Sometimes you can just choose between various survivor stats you see on that card. There may be a competition in which you choose another player that you have a competition with to see who scores on that card. And then there are art-based cards where you're looking for the certain icons and you're trying to best them. Now, once you've completed your first crime scene, in which hopefully you've gained some points, you can flip that card over and put it on your player board to illustrate exactly how many points you gained from that encounter at the crime scene. Now, once you finish that, you go back, you start a new round, you go back to another time phase. Otherwise, if you've done that 3 times, then you go to the final encounter. Now, you read the story of the final encounter, and there's going to be different phases. In this encounter, you're going to be rolling dice for all of your stats. You're going to be adding them all together. You're going to be trying to, again, push your luck, trying to get further and further. And depending on how far you get will be how many points you will ultimately score. Now, at the end of the game, you're going to add up all of the points for that final encounter. You're going to look at the crime scene points that you scored. You're going to get any quirk card points that you scored during the game, and you're going to look at your stats and where they're located and the points they give you. You'll add up all the points, and whoever has the most points wins. Chucky, scary gameplay in the world of child's play. Okay, so first of all, let me say this. I love horror. I am a horror junkie. I was a little kid and I'd watch horror films with my older brother. And I remember watching Salem's Lot. Scared the hell out of me, that kid at the window. But I just loved it. I always loved being scared. I love horror books. I love horror movies. And I love horror board games. Some of my favorite games are horror-themed games. And so I really like Trick or Treat Studios because they're kind of a dedicated horror game company. And they put out some really fun stuff. Halloween, hidden movement game where Michael Myers is going around as a hidden movement character trying to take out victims. Really liked that a lot. I thought that was fantastic. I liked the Texas Chainsaw Massacre game. I didn't love it. I thought it was good, not great. But I love this company, and I love like I say, they're dedicated to horror themes. I think that is awesome. Now, I have a confession to make before I go any further in the video, and that is, as much as I love horror, and I love the Halloween films and the Friday the 13th films, the Nightmare on Elm Street, I loved Freddy Krueger when I was a kid. I've never seen beginning to end a Child's Play movie. I've never seen one all the way through. I've seen bits and pieces here and there, and I love Brad Dourif. I think he's a great actor, but I have never seen one of these to beginning and end. So I can't really comment on how thematic this game is because, frankly, I just don't know. But I will tell you what I think of the game. Initially, when I saw that this was kind of this, you're placing these time tokens and stuff, I was thinking, that just doesn't seem very thematic generally, right? Not necessarily toward this IP, but just, it doesn't strike me as being a very good horror, tie in very well with horror. But really, fundamentally, what you're doing in that phase is setting yourself up for those bigger issues, right? Maybe hopefully getting some cards that you can score or help you. But really, fundamentally, that's what it is. It's just kind of a prep phase. Both rounds of that are they're just kind of prep phases, and then you go to those crime scene moments. And what's cool about the crime scene moments is their stories. They're very story driven, and you don't know what kind of card it's going to be. What's going to come up that is going to force you to make different kinds of decisions. And so that's really cool. I like that, and I suspect the theme is really coming through here with these cards in that phase. So I really enjoyed that because I think that's the point where you get the story from the game. And I've said this 100 times before, I'm not one of these cold mathematical gamers. that's just all about I get this many points if I can do this, and I get this. That doesn't mean a thing to me. If the story's not there, if 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 the experience doesn't include a journey, an adventure, I'm not on board with it. And that's maybe why I'm not such a big Euro gamer. I like more Ameritrash stuff, right? So I really appreciated that aspect of the game. That's what sucked me in. So that's just the putting the time tokens out. That's just the preparation stuff, but it's really fundamentally about those crime scenes and the final encounter. So I really really like that. Now there is some issues here. There was, I think, I'm fairly certain, a pretty glaring misprint with those final encounter cards because ideally, the further you get, you want to score more points. And yet on the cards themselves, it seems to be printed in the opposite way. So that the further you get, the fewer points you get, unless you beat it. So I think that was really I mean, I think that's just a misprint on the cards. I'm hoping it's a misprint on the cards because it seems to me that the rules are at variance, or at odds with the printed cards. And I'm assuming the rule book is correct, even though very often they say the cards override the rule book. In this case, I think the rule book is probably right. The cards were misprinted. That's the impression I get. I could be wrong, but that's what I think happened. That's a pretty glaring problem. It really is. If you're putting out a game where that final encounter, scoring those points is such an important part of the game, and they're wrong, that's a pretty big issue here. Now, it could be I'm wrong, I misread it or something, in which case, take that for what it is. But I really don't think I am. I think there was a misprint here. Hopefully, in subsequent editions, that will be changed. Overall, I got to tell you, I thought this was a fun game. I was engaged with it. I enjoyed it. I just played the 2-player, but Aaron and I, my friend Aaron, we got into it. We were really enjoying it. We were enjoying the stories. We're enjoying the challenges and the dice and the stats and yeah, it was a good game. It was fun, and the competition for the spaces too. Right? We really enjoyed it. I think it's a fun game. This is the kind of game. If I'm at somebody's house and they have it, they say, "Hey, you want to play it?" I'm down for it. I'm thinking, "Yeah, heck yeah." But I don't think it's a game I'm going to keep in my collection. And I'm not going to keep it in my collection for a few reasons. And the first of all is, frankly, the theme. Like I say, I've never seen any of these movies, so it doesn't resonate on that level with me. And while I think the game is fun, I don't know that I have as much of an attachment to it that kind of amplifies the fun I would get otherwise if I were more in tune with the IP. And then two, while I think the mechanics are pretty good and pretty solid, and I enjoy those story missions and preparing for those story missions and whatnot, and that competition that comes in for those spaces. Again, I'm not too happy with those misprinted cards. That kind of dampens a lot of my enthusiasm for the game. So I'm probably going to end up donating this one to my school. We'll see if I've got a friend that wants it, I'll give it to them. Otherwise, I will end up donating it. So where I'm getting at with everything I'm saying here is, I think it's a good game. I think it's a fun game. A misprint aside, I think if you play this game, you'll enjoy it. And I do think with all the different story cards it gives you and the different locations for the crime scenes that you get, I think there's a significant replay value here in this game. But with all this big package together, I'm going to say try it before you buy it. The misprint, as I understand it, really is a big issue here. And hopefully in a second edition or another printing, they'll fix that. And if I'm wrong on that, then I apologize, but that's just kind of what I see from my perspective here. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us today on The Discriminating Gamer. As always, I ask you to please leave a comment for us on YouTube, on Board Game Geek, on our Facebook page, or on thediscriminatinggamer.com. I'd ask you to please like us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, and follow us on Twitter. I'd also ask you, ladies and gentlemen, to please check out my other channel, that is Cody Carlson, PhD, where we talk about military history and books on history, fun things like that. I'd ask you to go ahead and subscribe to that channel. It would mean a lot to me. I would ask you to click on this video, give us a thumb on Board Game Geek. And if you really do like the content we bring you here, I would humbly ask you to click on the Super Thanks button and leave a tip. I got to tell you, I don't know if I lost my camouflage pants or they're just doing a really good job. Please somebody help me on my feet again, and I don't know where I'm going.
I love pizza.